Hello, Internet. We are live. This is my second time trying this, and I am so glad I didn't go through this whole hour once again thinking I was live when I actually wasn't. I am pretty sure I'm actually doing it right now. I have all the things up here. I am experimenting with something a little different, which is, of course, using OBS Studio, which is streaming software that allows me to be a little fancier with the way that I present myself on a live call. I've been playing with this software for a while with my coaching calls as I talk with people, just to kind of experiment with having multiple cameras and doing a little directing on the side, because I need more things to do at the same time, because multitasking is awesome. The last time I did this was 2 weeks ago. I actually literally had my loading screen up and I went through my whole thing without anybody doing it. And I've even just had my light go out on me, which is great. I have invested a little bit more in equipment that I have been playing around with, like having a light to light my face, because I am in a dark room and the lighting in here just does not work well. So I've been investing slowly and surely. I got a little crane here for my camera phone, which has like a magnetic mount, which is awesome. But anyway, I digress. My name is Blake, and for those of you that don't know, I help guide those on a spiritual journey to answer the life questions they didn't even know they had. And this is my weekly live Awaken with Blaken, which is also the same name as my Instagram, which you can find me on, or if you know about my YouTube, you probably already know because you are here from YouTube. This is the only place that I am streaming live at the moment, as I kind of get my bearings straight with all of the things on the internet. So I have been playing around, like I said, with OBS. I want to do a little bit more directing. I want to play with doing some switch shots, which I have another camera on my computer that is not too bad. And I have the camera on my phone, so that way I can kind of have the ability to talk there, and then also kind of capture the ambience of the room, which is a mildly lit up room right now, which I do feel like kind of works the best. But as I've been playing with these little features, I'm still trying to get the hang of it. So I appreciate everybody who is supporting and giving me feedback on the things that I'm playing around with, because I will only be successful with this with your help. So thank you for the people that we have in. If anybody watching has questions that come up, please drop questions in. I will take questions as I stop rambling and maybe grab some water as they come up. So feel free to ask as many as you want, as often as you want. And let's get into what's been going on with me here over the past few weeks. I actually was not here last week. I was out in the mountains outside of Medellin, Colombia, and doing an ayahuasca retreat. Ayahuasca is something that I have worked with, I wouldn't say often. It's not something I necessarily feel that should be done super often. But when you are called to it, it kind of really kind of gets loud in your being. And there are a lot of things about ayahuasca that I have really been really learned over the past few years. When I go through a ceremony, it's something that you can't even process completely. You need a lot of time to unpack and to be really kind of pay close attention to really the messages that you get, because you get an abundance of new information that can be really profound in your life and your growth. And one of the reasons why it's important to me is not just only my personal growth, but also the growth of those who I work with. I am a empowerment and transformation coach who is also trying to figure out kind of the specific niche that I'm trying to settle into. I do a 12-week program right now where I kind of go through a lot of identifying the transformation, the empowerment that people need to make that transformation, and I get them to a point where they are in a better place in their lives in a variety of capacity. Now, there's a few things that you can really kind of get specific on with this kind of work. And one of the things that I'm trying to understand more about, that I want to work with, that things that I really enjoy talking about, things I really enjoy reading about and learning about, And one of those is specifically the divine masculine. Largely because I don't want to just work with men or just women. I really want to work with men and women. And when it comes to talking about the divine masculine, men and women both have different objectives that they really probably want to hit with why they would want to have a better relationship with that, whether it be in their relationships, with their purpose, with romantic or platonic relationships, work relationships, professional relationships, even relationships with themselves, as they navigate a lot of maybe their father wounds or other masculine wounds that they've experienced through lives. There are an abundance of opportunities to grow from working with this modality. And I feel like this specific type of honing in is one of the things that I get reflected when I work with ayahuasca, but not just ayahuasca, plant medicine in general. When you start talking about the plant medicine, the idea of the energies gets really reflected as it being masculine or feminine. These attributes of kind of how more intense or how impactful the medicine can be, how it can be more playful or more serious. A lot of these little details kind of reflect the energy of what that kind of plant is going to bring back to you and how it's going to serve you. And so there's an opportunity, I feel, there within as kind of an inspiration, and the kind of coaching I want to do with people can be reflected in the kind of work that people need. As some people are trying to address a lot of their child wounds, they're trying to discover and release subconscious blocks that they have had from their childhood, or even develop a deeper connection with their higher selves. These are the kind of things that I am excited to work with, and a lot of what my coaching is going to be highlighting on. Just as a reference, you can find me at blakemcneil.com, where I do have a little bit of information about me and what kind of the modalities that I work with within my space. And if you want to book a free discovery call, it takes 30 minutes. We can go into a little bit more of these details. Just click Coaching with Blake, and I will be able to talk you through a lot of these and understand what it is that you feel like working with me would help bring, and illustrate how I can get you there. So those are always available to you. I love talking about these things and would really appreciate sharing a lot of the details that you have with this. Now, last week, whenever I was trying to essentially talk into the void, I wasn't sliding the little bar and I was just on a waiting screen the whole time. I was highlighting a few books that recently that I've been really digging, that I really wanted to share. These are books that I have yet to put on Blake's bookshelf, which is also on blakemcneil.com. I have a book recommendation list of the top 21 books over the past decade that have had the most impact on me. And I only add books on that list that I've completely read, sometimes more than once, because so much of the material in these books have been what's influenced a lot of the topics I talk about on my channel and just in person. Some of you know me in real life, and you will hear me bring up many of the topics that come to this, and I will recommend these books personally at any moment in a conversation. So I made a whole list of them. They're available if you want to subscribe to my newsletter, where I update about different kinds of topics that are important to me, things that just come up in my life. And it's a good resource for you to help support the channel and stay in touch with all the things I'm doing. So these books I haven't actually added to the list yet, but they're going to be added soon once I finish them. And they're very relative to, I think, a lot of the experience I've been going through here recently. One of the books that has been a very interesting read for me is called No Bad Parts by Richard C. Schwartz, PhD. And in No Bad Parts has been really something that it's about internal family systems, or IFS. And the concept around IFS is more or less about these different components that make up who we are and how we may have these struggles and difficulties in our lives that are being are being stubborn to navigate, because there's just certain parts of us that we developed at a young age that really don't serve us anymore. We really need to build a better relationship with those parts, and it's going to be hard sometimes to get familiar with them unless we spend a little bit of strategic work with analyzing what they are and how to communicate with them. Not only that, but as we try to dig deeper on some of these parts, they're going to kind of make it challenging on us to get to that finer part that we need to actually work with, that we need to build a relationship with, that we need to be able to communicate with and let know that things are going to be okay and that we want to have a positive relationship with. Perhaps when we were younger, we didn't feel as strong, or we felt very vulnerable, or we felt very weak. Those parts may still feel that we are that way. They may not even know that we've grown up, that we're an adult now, and that we have a much more capacity of how to be compassionate and there for those parts. And then there's other parts that may be specifically blocking that communication with those vulnerable parts in an attempt to prevent us from being able to communicate with them, perpetually keeping us in this state where we are not growing and we are struggling. So when it comes to, in my own personal life, about things that may just come up that I'm like, why can't I keep this right? Why can't I stay in certain habits that are good for me? Why do I keep making poor choices in certain cases? A lot of that's going to be rooted in these parts. In the book, Richard Schwartz does a really good job. One of the reasons, I think one of the biggest struggles, other than the fact I'm reading about 4 books at the same time, one of the things about the book that I found is a little different than other books I've read, is that Schwartz takes you kind of on a timeout where he actually gives you work to do. So you can't just read through this book and then be like, I get it and I'm done. You really have to kind of participate. You have to really kind of take the time to sit with it and listen. But he, like where I'm at right now, about a third of the way through, he does an actual interview with a podcaster and actually does some of this work with that podcaster live. And the podcaster actually goes through the whole process of this therapy. And it's really remarkable. So not only am I really excited to work with it myself, but I definitely see where some of this would be maybe not giving people a full-blown session of this, but giving them kind of the tools to kind of see a model of this, so that way they could, one, read the book and learn about it on their own, but also seek more dedicated resources for this work. So this is something I think that I'll be referencing quite a bit in the future, and it is definitely going to be going on my list once I complete it. One of the other books is called, and I've actually talked about this quite a bit, it's called Reality Transurfing. This is one of my favorite topics to bring up with people just in my everyday life. Reality Transurfing is, there's a bunch of YouTubers that I really respect that have brought this up, that brought it to my attention years ago. And I never even actually dug into finding the book, but now that I've been reading on it, it has been pretty remarkable. Reality Transurfing is in the basis of the idea of string theory. I don't know if you've maybe played or researched string theory, but this theory of everything, this idea that there are an infinite number of parallel realities. And in that infinite number of parallel realities, everything that we could ever choose to, every choice we could ever make, good or bad, exists, but that what we perceive is only one timeline that we're going through based on our vibrations. And as you have positive or negative vibrations, you will actually move into a different timeline based on the way that we think and the way that we act. And this would explain kind of why we can make our lives, improve our lives by doing things like meditation, thinking positive thoughts, being careful with the words that we choose and the way that we present ourselves in the world. All of these things are very, very important in terms of how we get to the timeline that we really want to be in. The way that we can make our lives be the version of this that we really find the most important. And one of the things I think is intimidating about this book, again, I'm doing audiobooks, which I really recommend. I want to say that this audiobook has So the print length is it's 542 pages. It doesn't sound that long actually as a print, but the audiobook was 36 hours. And that's actually the longest audiobook I've seen. Some of these other books are maybe all of like a 5-hour listen. So 36 hours is crazy. Maybe because it's a multi-part series, I'm not really sure. Those pages actually sound pretty low for it to be 36 hours, but it is a 36-hour audio. Again, listening to things at 2x is kind of my style when it comes to audio, and another one that I really recommend. So the third one I recommend, and kind of my segue into what I think the overall topic of this week is called Letting Go. Letting Go has been recommended by several people. This keeps coming up in conversations, even after I started reading it. A lot of the topics that have been drawn to, a lot of people know about this book. This may be something that you've already heard about, and it's definitely it should have been on my list a long time ago. But ultimately, the overall idea of letting go is about dealing with grief. And for lack of a complete synopsis of the book, the ultimate message here is surrender. Being able to completely surrender to the experiences we have, and recognizing and having compassion for the experiences that we have is incredibly important in the way that we deal with moving forward in our life. We're going to have so many obstacles that we're going to need to be equipped with very effective means for how we show up and push through a lot of these things. Because the more that we hold on to grief and the more that we hold on to the struggle, we're going to be in this fight with ourselves. And being in this fight with ourselves is not going to be a good way for us to show up and move forward. And like I was talking about reality transurfing, we have these timelines that we want to keep shifting ourselves into that are going to serve us a lot better. And part of the way that we're going to be able to get there is by surrendering. So, highly recommend Letting Go. This is probably going to be the first one that I finish. It's the furthest one I am along at this point, just because of the fact that No Bad Parts has a little bit more participation that I feel to get the best out of it. And Letting Go will probably be the one that I finish first. 400 pages on it. I believe that the audio of it is maybe only 5 or 6 hours. So those are the 3 books. This is what I talked about last week, because I wanted to highlight a little bit more about my, I haven't talked a lot about books in a while. Again, I haven't actually put out a new video, and I haven't put out like a productive video. I've been doing more of the lives. This is really my intent to kind of get my experience with doing kind of live content. Doing what I'd like to start doing is collaborating with other YouTubers, doing kind of a podcast style, and having even like panels where we maybe discuss deeper topics. And this is all me preparing for you, the audience, who I appreciate that join me and allow me to have this opportunity to do all this. So as time goes on, there's different things that come up that I like to share. One of the things that I will do for sharing that is in my newsletter, where if you want the list of books that I actually have recommended, the ones that I have finished and I have read multiple times that encompass a lot of the things I talk about, here's the newsletter. It's on blakemcneil.com, Blake's Bookshelf. You can find it on blakemcneil.com. There's a link at the very top. But if you enter your name and your email address, you will be on my newsletter for updates and topics that are relevant to the things that I enjoy talking about that come up in my coaching, and also promotions that may be available and other cool things, like as in the future, whenever I start incorporating retreats and things like that, there will be very limited seating. So it will be wise to go ahead and get a list, buy a couple books to support the channel, and also be available as those informations come up in the future. So to kind of bring back around this topic about my ayahuasca experience, it's sometimes I feel like it's kind of a rich topic to bring up. Not everybody is, I feel, really ready to experience ayahuasca, and sometimes I get so excited about it that sometimes people are like, look, I don't want to do ayahuasca, and it's fine. I don't want to advocate people to stop everything they're doing and go to ayahuasca. Even if you are called to ayahuasca, I can guarantee you, you may not be completely ready for ayahuasca. It involves a lot of effort and a lot of energy to go through this process, because it will tear you down. It will literally dredge all of this kind of heavy energy that we have deep within us that's easy to miss over the years of coping and finding ways to ignore a lot of the problems that we have, things that may have been buried forever. And ayahuasca is going to dig deep down into the bowels of a lot of that and just throw it everywhere. Indiscriminately, throw it everywhere, and that energy is going to manifest its way within you in very, very nerving and potentially scary ways. But if you want to take the responsibility to experience that and recognize and go through the process, and you've been going through maybe a little bit of meditation and breathing, and you've been learning a lot of these modalities to better yourself and find ways to heal these wounds that we have, you're going to find that it is the perfect platform for you to take a deep look at a lot of that and be able to find avenues for it to be distributed away from you. Sometimes and a lot of times it's in the form of purging. And purging can be a lot of different things. Without getting too detailed and gross, you will have opportunities to ignore a lot of these kind of disturbing images and scary moments. And it's a challenge too, because if you can focus on that energy and let it be there and be present with it, it will come out and you will get rid of it. And you will have a moment where the dust settles and you will feel so relieved that that has finally gone. And while not everybody is in a situation where they have access to an ayahuasca ceremony, one of the big lessons I've learned from going through all this, one of the things that they mention in letting go, is this idea of surrender. This idea of recognizing that things are going to be uncomfortable, that things are going to be challenging. You're going to, at some point, want to do something you've never done before, and you're going to have to put yourself out there. You may have to create a YouTube Live, and things don't work, and you talk to an empty camera for multiple hours, or you put yourself on live and nobody even comes to watch what you're talking about. There's going to be plenty of things outside of taking plant medicine that come up that are going to really challenge you to really understand what you're trying to do and what your message is. And if you haven't had the lessons of really understanding how you can let go of a lot of these things that don't serve you, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of struggle in recognizing how to actually do it. So we don't improve overnight in a lot of this. It's a process. It's cumulative. We have to show up on a consistent basis and constantly do this work. And over time, as we're doing the work, we're going to find that it does get easier. And maybe easier is like a tricky way of really explaining it, is that it's not so much that it gets easier, but it gets familiar. And you may even be familiar with the fact that things are a little bit hard. But you will, over time, be like, this isn't going to be anything that's any more difficult than it's been in the past. Because you can take a moment to just take a deep breath, take a big moment to just let go. And in that surrender, you'll find a lot of strength. And the things that are scary, these crazy monsters, which are really just how we feel as our emotions, are not that scary. They're the sum of our parts, these things that are trying to protect us. They're being loud and ugly because they want to scare the shit out of us. But they really can't hurt us. the only way we can really hurt ourselves is by ignoring these things. By truly stepping aside, letting fear take over, and being like, I can't handle this. But nothing in this world that's ever been that important has ever been made with no difficulty at all. There's been countless battles to be faced, and there's been countless challenges to be explored. And I honestly believe that anybody out there that wants to make a change in their life, that wants to have transformation, has to go through the hero's journey. You know, they have to have a great loss. They have to have this great sacrifice. They have to go and find the dragon, and they have to slay the dragon, and then come back to the community, reborn. What every story has ever given us. And that process involves a lot of surrender. So I guess one of the things in this overall week that has really been sticking with me is, how do I surrender and still show up? I've been really struggling to do this weekly live on a reoccurring basis, largely because I've had things come up and I've been busy with being out of town, because it's really hard for me to do this in the middle of a ceremony. But also because I've not surrendered as well as I wanted to. It's a very vulnerable experience being on here, talking to several people, or even talking out here and then having people not watch can be its own set of challenge. So you don't have to do a live channel. You don't have to put yourself on social media. There's going to be countless moments in your professional world, your personal world, where you have to be vulnerable and you have to let go. And there's no reason why you can't be successful at those things by putting in the time to kind of recognize, how can I become more efficient at this? What is it that I can learn? And as you learn these tools, you're going to recognize that you have more tools in the toolbox. And I think that was my biggest take-through with the Aya, is there was several moments where I was absolutely felt like I was going to lose my mind. And you hear wild stories of people kind of having, intense experiences, and I was definitely there. However, there was something else inside of me. There was this layer that was able to look on the outside of it. And what it was me reaching into the toolbox, finding the breathing, finding the projecting of my mind to understand and accept that these images can't hurt me, avoiding the attempt to try to ignore them, and recognize that the most strength I'm going to gain is by battling the dragons, because all of these things that I'm experiencing are my own demons. It's the parts of me that I don't need, that don't serve me, that are coming up to scare the shit out of me, to want me to stay comfortable and accepting what I've always been. Recognizing my own ego, recognizing that I'm putting myself on a path of a lot of work where I'm going to have to tear down all these things that I've done to protect myself and keep myself at the same. But the big win is that I didn't let that happen. I had those tools and that realization to be able to, in that state, still move forward with the growth. And at the end of it, I definitely don't feel like the same person. I definitely feel like there's a layer of me that is gone, that has been removed. And the version of me that's now here is more of that future self that I know I am moving further into, that I deserve to be in, that timeline that I really want to be in, can be here. And a lot of that is because of the surrender. It's giving my time and myself the space to invest in my higher or future self. So I guess my biggest challenge for everybody watching is, what can you do this week what can you surrender to? If you're watching this, at a replay, please comment below. What are you going to surrender to this week? What is it that you're going to try to push yourself to? I'd really love to hear from you about it. I'd love to have a conversation about this. If you want to take a minute to do a 30-minute discovery call, check out the website, blakemcneil.com. I'm available for the next 4 weeks for sure. And I'm really interested to work with you, have a further conversation about this in the future. I hope to see you guys. I'm going to end it right here. I hope to see you guys again next week when we get more into the details that I'm going to kind of have that come up from this in conversation. So until then, I thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next week.